Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. Glad you're here. Today we're talking about Faith in the Valley. What is that? They changed the name and it covers the entire Central Valley from Merced all the way down to Fresno and even beyond that. Connect with Me starts right now.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Back here on the program Monday morning, it's Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. So glad you are back here on the showroom floor. And we're going to talk about Faith in the Valley here in just a moment. But first, you're watching us live on Comcast Channel 375 as usual. Xfinity, Comcast Cable, whatever you want to call it, my friends. If you don't have Comcast Cable, you're thinking about maybe cutting the cord, it's okay too. We still like our friends over at Comcast. But you can get a digital television outdoor antenna, and it's a modern day version of the antenna, not like your grandparents had. 13.1, 43.6 over-the-air broadcast. Later in the day, the replay comes up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. And my friends, this is all with an outdoor antenna. That's not on cable. So if you have one of those antennas, you can get up nearly 100 channels across the board, including all of ours here at Ventura TV. After that, you know, all you have to do is dial on to youtube.com/MeTV Fresno, and you can catch the majority of our shows dating back to 2012 on YouTube, and you can watch them anytime of day or night. Well, you know, one of the biggest campaign promises for Donald Trump before he became elected, he called them bad dudes, bad hombres, my friends, and he said he would deport all of the undocumented workers here in this country. That adds up to about 2 to 3 million people. I want to roll the videotape and show you what our topic is today here in the Central Valley. According to some of the latest figures, under President Trump, arrests are up, but deportations are down. Yet under the Trump administration, the fear factor for undocumented immigrants has gone way up. That's because the president has issued executive orders that expand the powers of ICE agents, allowing the agency to cast a wider net when looking for certain people. Now, in the video that you see here, members of Faith in the Valley, an organization that has expanded into 5 different counties, count them, Fresno, Kern, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Merced. Their focus is protecting undocumented workers who have no criminal history. ICE raids have gone up into rural farming areas and the healthcare industry as well, causing some workers to become scared and to try and hide. And in turn, some businesses are being hit hard because they are having a tough time filling certain positions. Police Chief Jerry Dyer has decided to stay away from ICE, but Sheriff Margaret Mims, she's all in, letting ICE agents into the Fresno County Jail to crack down. Faith in the Valley also supports those who've been discriminated against with hate messages, hate crimes, and all the rest. Now, this video you see here, this was during a news conference earlier this year when they denounced Corey Ali Muhammad, accused of killing 3 people in downtown Fresno because of the color of their skin. Muhammad is black. Doctors have recently said that he is incompetent to stand trial. Here is one Fresno pastor talking about discrimination here in the Fresno area.
It is obvious that there is much hurt, pain, anger that needs to be expressed and that should be expressed due to the recent shootings that have occurred across our nation and shootings that have occurred locally. But I think there's something that is missing, and that is dealing with the issue at hand, which is not necessarily the shootings or not necessarily our direct homeless issues or our boarded up and blighted up homes, but it's the systemic racism and hatred that is breeded into the fabric of our nation. And when we are only attacking the surface level of problems, once those surface level problems are removed, the soil that is underneath it, or the foundation, will continue to breed the same issues. As a Black Baptist preacher, it is necessary for me to bring this to a conclusion before we start shouting in this church. The best way to do it, of course, as a preacher, is to give a wonderful analogy in the next minute. As Reza knows, my favorite movie is a 1994 film called The Lion King. And in The Lion King, we find the issue of race all breeded into an issue of animals, as they come together at the beginning to hail the next king by the name of Simba. However, there is a scene that grabbed my attention. As Simba grew up and learned this motto of Hakuna Matata, similar to what our nation is attempting for us as African Americans, brown Americans, and people who are dealing with injustice, and it's hitting at the core issue, which is no worries for the rest of your days. There was a Black preacher named Rafiki that slapped him over the head with his righteous stick. And when Simba responded and asked, "Why did you do that?" his response to him was, "Why? It's in the past." He said, "I know it's in the past, but it still hurts." He says to him, "It's necessary that even though it hurts, you must go back and deal with your past no matter how much it hurts." For 5 seconds, my call is for you. Is there a Simba in the house that is willing to go back to their past and see that the history of our nation has hurt us, but we still must deal with it?
All right, live in our studio right now, he's a return guest, Rabbi Rick Weiner, Temple Beth Israel. He is the president of the entire 5-county organization called Faith in the Valley program. He is the president of the board. Rabbi, good to have you here on the program. So glad to see you. How are you this Monday morning?
I'm good. Glad to be back. A little warm today.
Faith in the Valley.
Yes.
The focus is what? Number one.
Lifting up and supporting all people throughout the valley, especially those who are vulnerable. So that's we have many vulnerable people in our region, and they don't always get the voice that they deserve to have. And so our mission is really to help make sure that their voices are lifted up, starting with them. So the goal of community organizing is to make sure that the people who deserve to speak, should be speaking, which are all of our citizens, have equal footing in that. Not just citizens, all of those people who are serving our community are able to stand up and be counted. Because as we've noticed, here locally, there are many people who are not citizens who are serving our community in extremely important ways, and we need to make sure that they're protected as well.
Talk about Faith in the Valley, because it used to be Faith in the Community, right? And the
Right.
name has changed. Talk about that a little bit.
So Faith in Community was the local chapter here in Fresno County, along with the 5 other counties that we represent, had separate community organizations that were loosely affiliated. With the merge that we went through to bring the counties together through Faith in the Valley, it allows us a more powerful structure to better lift up voices without duplicating some of our resources. So some of our financial and organizational structures have been combined in order to make sure that we can optimize the work of our staff, our organizers, and then better assist the community members who need to get their word out to the halls of legislation and power, and make sure that the real seat of power is in the people, which is how a democracy is designed.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're talking with Rabbi Rick Weiner of Fresno. He is the president of Faith in the Valley, and it's a 5-county organization now. It used to be Faith and Community just here in Fresno, but they've combined with all 5 counties to make it it's a wider net they're blanketing more areas here in the Central Valley to try to help those people with some injustices. So you're welcome to call in at 436-ME-TV, option 11. You may have seen Rabbi Rick here on the program before from Temple Beth Israel. We've talked religion. We'll talk a little bit about that and about some of the protests that took place over the weekend and in recent weeks across the country. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today. You're watching Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno. An open line, call in. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
A week from this Wednesday, August 3rd, at Fresno High. This is a beginning of a series of conversations and a journey to bring our community together, to heal our community. We're a very culturally rich community, very diverse, and we want to make sure that we all come together, discuss any issues that we've had, and release and reduce the tension in the community.
The message to all of our community, to include our faith leaders, is we have to come together and be united and quit pointing the finger at one another and trying to blame one another, blaming members of the community, blaming law enforcement. There's solutions out there, but those solutions are addressing problems that are deep-rooted in our community and in society in general. The police have become all things to all people.
It's very important that not only the public and civil groups are there, but that institutions that are faith-based. The Diocese of Fresno has a tremendous commitment not only to the city of Fresno, but to the county and the whole valley. There are so many people here suffering because of the violence, because of the injustice, and because of the needs that are not being addressed. We as church, we as people of faith, want to be there to celebrate our unity as a community. If we believe that the community needs help, we must do something to heal the community. The community is hurting, not only in Fresno, but throughout the valley and throughout the country and throughout the world.
It's open to everybody, it's open to every community, and it's going to be a beautiful expose and mosaic of religious leaders, social justice leaders, educators standing up and declaring all together that we're unified and we're for social justice.
We are a nation that is governed by laws which protect our democracy. We're also a nation founded on the principle of respect for human dignity. Please join us on August 3rd.
Obviously, that's an old video we took off of YouTube, and it's a healing organizing committee that and really they were meetings. I don't know what you'd call them, but get-togethers that took place last August, over at Fresno High, and people of all faiths came together. Rabbi, what was the outcome of that? Because that took place during a very busy time. What was the outcome? You were part of that. Am I right?
Yeah, and what the actual outcome is kind of hard to judge because here locally we have wonderful relationships between the different religious and ethnic communities, but because of what's going on nationwide, it's fanning various flames that are making it challenging for all of us. Now, flip side of that, just this weekend, hundreds came together to show our support for loving relationships and to to say that we stand against hatred.
Where did this take place, in the Tower District?
In the Tower District, I was there with several of the people that we saw in your clip.
Including Jim Grant, Reza Nekhmanish,
Yeah,
Chief
I don't
Jerry
think
Dyer.
Jim was. I didn't see Jim there, but we had a good group from the religious leadership. Chief was there to help make sure that things were protected for those who were there to demonstrate. It was really a very positive
Peaceful?
gathering.
Was it peaceful?
Absolutely, 100%
No arrests.
peaceful. No, and there wasn't anything that even came close to a problem. It was all people who were there expressing love, support, anti-hatred. I mean, the things that are getting so much airplay across the country today. We're trying to make sure people understand that that's not Fresno. Fresno has wonderful cooperation and love between the different religious and ethnic groups and the gay straight alliances. It's really a lot of good stuff going on here. With all the problems that Fresno has with poverty and pollution, when it comes to people getting together, we're doing a great job, and the rest of the country really ought to take notice.
The purpose of the rally was what?
It was in response to the various rallies that people have attempted to do in recent weeks for white supremacy. And fortunately, throughout much of California, and we saw it in Boston as well, the numbers were way overloaded from the loving presence as opposed to the presence of hate. We looked at what happened in Charlottesville and all thought that that was absolutely disgusting. There's no equivocation to it. There's no balance. You cannot look at something like that and say, well, there were bad people on both sides. I'm sorry. When you walk out...
So you disagree with President Trump when he says there are good people on both
Everybody
sides?
disagrees with President Trump.
No, I'm just
so
saying,
people from his own party came out and said that his response was bad, inadequate. When you march through a city across the community, in front of the synagogue, in front of minorities, carrying torches, you stand for hate.
Well, in his words, there were good people on both sides.
Yeah,
You disagree with that?
No, if you are willing to stand with people carrying torches, you are standing for the wrong thing. You're in the wrong place. If you do anything but disavow that, you are wrong.
So go ahead.
I generally like to show some balance and compassion for different opinions, but when people march through a community with torches, they're pulling up imagery of the KKK. There is no acceptable way to do that. There is no way to look at that and say, well, there were nice people there. No. If you are carrying torches through a community, walking past what he didn't mention was they were walking past the synagogue. They were walking past minorities, shouting horrible, racially charged, anti-Semitic, anti-everybody but them, hatred. They were spewing hatred. And so there's no way to be connected with that and be right.
Yeah, now this happened not far from a synagogue in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Right by it. They walked right
just
in
within
front of
blocks,
it.
right?
No, on the block.
On the same block.
They walked past it. There were two armed militia, pseudo-militia racists standing in front of the synagogue while Jews were inside praying. During our normal Sabbath services, the community was there, and there were two people standing right out in front of it the whole time with rifles.
Near where the young girl was hit by a car.
I was told that it was
killed.
200 feet. The synagogue was 200 feet from where that horrible attack took place.
And many of those Jewish worshipers, they were scared to go out the front door. They went out the back.
The president of the congregation was advised to send everyone out the back so that they would not be in jeopardy.
Now, since you said that many people, or not many people, but maybe some people from this Fresno congregation actually went to help.
No. People from we're affiliated with the Reform Movement of Judaism,
Okay.
and from nationally across the Reform movement and other Jews not necessarily affiliated with the Reform movement have been to Charlottesville. The president of our movement went and was there in the community. Some of my favorite Jewish musicians, friends of mine, went in this past Friday evening. That's our normal Sabbath worship time, to worship together with the community there, to say that we stand
No one
together.
from Fresno, though.
I don't believe anyone from Fresno
But
was
friends
able to
of yours
get
from
out
across
there.
the country
Absolutely, good
went
friends
to
of
help
mine.
out.
Yeah, people who come here to Fresno. One of our favorite Jewish musicians, Julie Silver, is just beautiful, sweet voice. She was moved to just get up and go.
Right.
And she performs here as well.
Let me just get your opinion, although I know what your answer may be, just before I go to break here, and I want to know the answer to this because there's a lot of talk across the spectrum about this. These alt-right groups, the white supremacists, whether or not they're connected to the KKK, we don't know, but they're racist. They're labeled as racist groups because of the freedoms that we have in this country, whether it be freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Do they have a right to march?
I absolutely believe in the First Amendment rights to free speech, but I also am sensitive to the fact that when your speech is inciting violence
Right.
and hatred, there's a tough question on
is there
whether
a thin
that
line
is
there?
protected. You know, I'm not an expert in First Amendment constitutional rights and how it plays into the public display of it. I know that the ACLU just came out and said they are not going to defend that anymore. And that's pretty significant. You know, there's a difference between standing up in the community and saying that you believe in something that may be abhorrent to everybody,
Right.
and standing up in the community with torches and guns and paramilitary attire, brass knuckles. You know, I know clergy who were there in Charlottesville, and they were attacked with people using brass knuckles. If you are coming to do that, you're not coming for First Amendment purposes. You're coming to bash heads.
Right. All right. Talking to Rabbi Rick Weiner, Temple Beth Israel. He's the president of Faith in the Valley. That's a program, faith-based programs that they bring all sorts of people together from different religious backgrounds to try and help the people that are really underprivileged and really are discriminated against here in the Central Valley. And so you're welcome to call in 436-MeTV option 11. We'll get into the undocumented worker program here in the Central Valley and how some people are running scared right now because of what's going on. 436-MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today on the program. Again, we have an open phone line. Back in a moment.
Want to create something extraordinary? Create perfection. Our lifestyle appliances make it easy. KitchenAid, Ventura TV appliance, and you, when only the best will do.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Well, friends, I gotta tell you, I've got a huge crush on Fresno. I've been here for 6 years now and completely smitten by its self-determination, seduced by its grit and its character, and charmed by its diversity. Fresno is hot on so many levels, and in my mind, the best-kept secret of California, no doubt. That being said, I love talking about Fresno, and so I'm glad we can get together tonight to begin a conversation, one that is very complex and multidimensional. I'd like to quickly share one thing that I've been thinking about just for what it's worth. So on a macrocosmic level, we've got everything that's happening in the world and in our country, breeding divisiveness, demonization, and disunity. Intolerant rhetoric and violence of many kinds are pitting us against our brothers and sisters. And then we've got sweet Fresno, a mesocosm or a mediumcosm, for lack of a better word. Then we've got ourselves, each one of us, a microcosm of sorts. And it occurs to me that if we want to be unified as a city, we must seek unity within ourselves. That yes, each one of us has been wonderfully created by our loving Creator, and also that we all have room to grow in compassion and self-awareness. In order for anything to change macrocosmically, we must make a change microcosmically. That is, we must start within ourselves and deeply reflect on our own personal fears, assumptions, and prejudices that we project onto others. It's okay to disagree. However, I know that I often react without doing some inner reflection first. It's that whole thing that Jesus talks about, being so worried about the speck in my neighbor's eye that I'm not able to see the log in my own. When we are aware of this, then and only then can we build relationship and bring wholeness in our community. And it's a process for sure. But tonight, I hope we can promise to one another that we will strive together and also forgive one another when we mess up.
Thank you, Reverend.
Let's do it for the sake of sweet Fresno.
All right, back here in the program talking about faith here in the Valley and around the country the last couple of weeks, Rabbi. We've seen in Boston, we saw the big protests there. And, of course, against some of these hate groups, there was really no violence. In fact, the Boston police chief was hailed as a pretty good guy for keeping the peace throughout that entire process. You know, over the weekend in the San Francisco Bay Area, the San Francisco rally was canceled canceled yesterday. This is what one news organization categorized this as to what happened in Berkeley, because there were protesters there, thousands of protesters in Berkeley yesterday. And you know, the campus of Berkeley has been known for protesters since way back in the early 60s, since the Vietnam War. But yesterday, violence broke out. There were several arrests. This is how one media organization categorized the attack that happened there. Left-wing counter-protesters clashed with right-wing protesters, attacking the right-wingers. They wore black hoodies and black bandanas. There were several arrests, and this took place, obviously, in the city of Berkeley. So a lot of it has not calmed down yet. Why do you think that is? Although we're calm here in the Central Valley, you mentioned that peaceful protest in obviously, the Tower District, but yet in Berkeley and maybe other parts of the country, tensions are tight right now. They're just, everyone seems to be uptight. Why?
Well, there is a bit of that, but there's also, you know, when you call out and observe the hooded protesters, anti-protesters who are inciting violence at some of these, I don't know that they have any connection to the cause. They may or may not, but my observation is these are adrenaline junkies. These are not people that any of us in the community organizing networks know. So when we bring together hundreds of people, thousands of people sometimes, from hundreds of congregations, there isn't a group at the table with the black hoodies who are saying we're going to come in and disrupt this. And if there were, we would disinvite them because we're not interested in that. We're only interested in making sure that the peaceful opportunities are there to make sure that the basic rights for people in our community are lifted up. So, for example, I don't even look at some of these things as protests. We're not. It's not that we're protesting. We're showing that we're lifting up the examples of love, cooperation, community that bring people together, because that's what we're about. We're not, yeah, we need to protest the hatred that has been unleashed, but it's really not hard in this region to counteract that, because the vast, vast majority of people have no interest in that kind of violent reaction.
All right, before I get into the undocumented workers, which we talked about at great length last night, you and I, let's go back to the faith in the Valley now. It used to be faith in the community. Now you've got these 5 organizations that are separate. They're under. You guys are under the same umbrella, but it's like you have separate programs in each county. And I mentioned the 5 counties earlier. So, do you have a board president for each of these counties? Or are you the board president for that spans the valley?
So we have a board for the 5 counties together.
Okay.
Of which I'm the current president of the board.
But you're the president of the board for all 5 counties.
For Faith in the Valley, and then we have Faith in Fresno, Faith in Merced, Faith in each of these different
Stanislaus
counties.
County, Merced.
Yeah, and they each have a steering committee.
Which does what?
So, because community organizing is dependent on and loyal to grassroots organizing, we need to make sure that each local region, each local affiliate, is able to specifically answer the needs of the local community. So, if there's a particular issue that we need to work on here in Fresno, which we have and we do, then our local steering committee, our local group will focus on that. But there are many issues that are valley-wide. So when we're looking at the air quality, when we're looking at the need for jobs across the valley, there's a lot that we can do together. When we were just...
What can you do, though, about that? Because air quality has been an issue since I moved to Fresno in 1996.
Right. Right.
And I don't know if it's improved. I don't know if it's gotten worse. How can you how can Faith in the Valley make an impact on some of these lawmakers?
When we bring big numbers, there are a lot of lawmakers who want to do the right thing, but they need assistance. They need to see that there are a lot of people who are going to support them doing the right thing. So when we were just in Sacramento with several hundred people who were meeting. In fact, they had to get us a bigger room to do that. And we're lobbying for protection of our workers. We're lobbying for clean energy jobs. We're lobbying for
safe conditions.
Absolutely. Protecting the people who do the honest work of our valley. So, for example, here in Fresno, we understand that Amazon is coming into town. They're a huge, huge employer. We want to make sure that people who really need the jobs here locally have first shot at those jobs. So it does no good to give great tax incentives to an employer if they're not going to employ locals.
How can you make sure they do that?
So when we bring out big numbers and our local officials see that, they see that we're paying very close attention, and they also see that we have voters. And so they're going to be reminded that the community is watching them and they need to do the right thing.
You're going to be watching
them. And we often partner with the leadership. I see, Mayor Brand. You've got a picture here with him.
We have a lot of pictures here on the wall. But why aren't you up on that wall? By the way,
I don't know. We worked together with Mayor Brand here in while he was on the city council, working on making sure that housing conditions for tenants in the community were improving and improved, and we brought together business and citizens groups to get legislation. It was wonderful to see that city council meeting where we walked in there and my friends from the business community were looking across the aisle and they said, "Wait, are you guys here opposing?" No. We were all in favor of the same legislation. We have great partnerships as we're trying to build clean energy jobs. So here in the Central Valley, where clean energy is going to be one of the necessary components of cleaning up our air.
Clean energy meaning like what, solar?
Solar, and there are a lot of other components to clean energy as well, but solar is one of them, and it's a big one, and it's doing a lot of business these days. We want to make sure that those jobs are getting to people in our community who need them and can use them.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what our leadership wants as well.
Rabbi Rick Weiner is here, Temple Beth Israel, 436 MeTV Option 11. Who's the sponsor? Dr. Thomas Casagrande of 2020 Optometrics out there at Sean Blackstone. He's been out there more than 20 years. Back in a moment. We have an open phone line.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to Digital Channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV Guide.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
You see all the diversity that's up here on this platform, different people from different walks of life, theological backgrounds. When we talk about diversity, what that mentions is that we're all not going to agree. I think many times we think when this thing's over, everybody's going to agree. Let me tell you, I've been married for 35 years to a woman I love with all my heart. We don't agree all the time. We still live together. We still get along together. We've even had kids together. I even let you know this. I don't agree with myself 100% of the time. The thing is, what do we have in common? What do we fight together for? In that marriage, we fight for each other. We fight for our children. As I was getting ready for tonight, I looked down on my desk and I saw a memorial folder for little Rashad. A little over a month ago, I stood at the head of the casket of this 20-month-old that was gunned down in the streets of Fresno. To me, this is what it's about. We can come with our agendas, we can come with the causes that we all have, as good as they may be. But when you sit and you bury a child simply because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time, gunned down on our streets, this is injustice. This has got to stop.
All right, that was Reverend Jim Franklin. I think he's kind of recognizable. He's been on television a lot. He's been the pastor at Cornerstone Church for the last 25 years. He has his own radio program, and he has a big voice in the community. He also, I think, fills in for Ray Appleton at KMJ. So he has recognition in the Valley. He's recognized. He's a very conservative voice, as we all know. He's been on this program 4 or 5 times in the last 5 years. And I think he is he one that people will listen to? Is he the voice of reason, do you think? To a certain extent? I mean, he has a different viewpoint than many, but...
I do not know what his listening base is. I'm sure there are people, you know, he's got a big church, so I'm sure there are plenty of people who listen to him. We tend to disagree on a lot of issues.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. You can disagree without enticing violence. Respect.
And
having respect.
And that's much of what goes on here in the Valley. We have a lot of people who come together across political and religious divides in order to work on the improvement of our region, our valley, our city.
Right. Okay, let's get into the numbers about the undocumented workers, because we haven't talked much about it yet here on the program. Okay, reading some numbers here just over the weekend and talking about some of the undocumented workers and talking about ICE and deportations. Many of the government reports, they come from the custom agents or custom and immigration services. This is where these numbers, that's where I'm getting these numbers from. So some of the numbers are varied. Under the Obama administration, 2009 to 2016, there were 2,700,000 deportations in that time span. There's another report that I read that from 2008 to 2016, more than 3 million ICE removals and deportations. Under Donald Trump, more arrests. Of course, we're just into like 6, 7, 8 months now. More arrests, but fewer deportations. Then tell me why people are more afraid here in the Central Valley, undocumented workers that are not showing up for work, to work in the fields, not showing up for their healthcare positions. Businesses are worried about filling some of those positions. Why is there more fear in the atmosphere in the last 8 months now under this president?
You know, I was reading something earlier today about one of the most significant roles of the president is to set the tone for our country. Not only for our country, but, you know, as they say, leader of the free world, to set the tone for much of what goes on in the world. And when the tone coming out of Washington is of fear of other and hatred of the immigrants, as opposed to appreciation of differences and love of community, then we have a climate that becomes fearful. We also have what appears to be an unleashing of the ICE administrations going after people with no demarcation of whether they are violent or not.
In other words, no record of being violent in the past.
Well, we certainly,
they're going after those people that are non-violent offenders.
I don't know what the current numbers are. I'm not an expert in the numbers. I have the luxury of, as a board member, of not having to know all of the data specifically, but supporting the basics of what we're doing. And we're watching that people who are dropping their kids off from school are getting picked up. People, and this is extremely disturbing, people who are reporting abuse are getting picked up.
What type of abuse?
So when there is like sexual abuse in the home, we've seen at least a few cases of this. The abuser is brought to court, and the accuser, a vulnerable person, is picked up. And one of the reasons that many police chiefs across the country are not supporting this kind of legislation is it's hurting our efforts at maintaining law, because when you have witnesses afraid to step forward, when you have witnesses who are afraid to step up and document crime, then crime goes uncaptured, unpunished.
So what you're saying is, just to clarify, that some of these maybe women that are being abused by a boyfriend, by a husband, they're undocumented. So they're afraid to go into court because they're afraid of being arrested, deported. They don't have the right paperwork.
Because it's happening.
Or even some of the witnesses are afraid to come forward because what is happening? They're being deported? They're being arrested?
we have definitely seen cases, and it only takes a couple to whip up the frenzied fear. We have definitely seen cases where the person who's been accused...
it's taking place here in the Valley?
I'm not sure if the cases of the abusers reporting their victims have happened. We do know. So I know of a woman in the Valley, law-abiding worker who has children in the school system here in the Valley, was picked up, was stopped for tinted windows on her car.
Okay.
And was told by the police that ICE was going to come and pick her up, and now she's in hiding.
Okay.
I don't know the absolute current status of the case, but come on. You're going to deport someone who's been working to better our community and participate in the American way of life for tinted windows.
So here's the thing, and I want to get to the crux of this, because I want you to tell me the status of some of the farm workers here, because Donald Trump did come out before the election. He says, man, there's some bad dudes out there. There's some bad hombres out there. And he would promise to deport all of the undocumented immigrants who have criminal records. That adds up to about 2 to 3 million that have criminal records. He wants those people out of the country. But you're saying it's going beyond that. They're targeting people that don't have criminal records. What is that doing to our farming community with some of the farm workers and the undocumented workers with that fear? What's happening in the farm community?
I've had some great conversations with ag business leaders here in the community, and they have been concerned for years that we need to have a legal process for people to come and work, because we rely on the immigrant workforce to not only fill the jobs in our community, but they're literally feeding the country. And so are people willing to pay 3-4 times the amount that they are for produce in order to make it attractive enough for other workers to fill those jobs? Because right now we already know that the business community is being affected by not being able to fill those jobs. Ag is just
what
one.
are the farm workers doing? Are they just not showing up for work?
So some of the people who would typically come in for the seasons are not coming in for the seasons. Because they're afraid. Absolutely. I met with workers in their encampments out in the fields at one of the campesinos. They're afraid to go shop. They're afraid to take their kids to school. So business in general is being affected because the people who normally would be not only the workers but also consumers are afraid to go out. The ICE raids have stepped up for people doing nothing wrong other than being here, and they're being here because we have created an economy that requires them to be here. And look, I have no issue with people coming here for a better life. I support. If you're not Native American, your family came here in search of a better life, so pretty much all of us have someone in our family who did that. And we need to have good, safe, legal ways for them to do so.
What can be done to help these farm workers feel safe in coming back to work? I don't know how many jobs out there are not being filled. I don't know how many crops are not being picked because they're not showing up. What can be done? Does the law have to be changed here in California or in this country? And if so, that's a long process.
And this is what's going on in California. So when they talk about California declaring itself a sanctuary state, when they talk about cities declaring themselves sanctuary, it's we get into the politics of what the particular words mean and whether Washington is going to withhold federal funding, which is ludicrous and ridiculous, if not unconstitutional. But what it's saying to the workers is that we are going to stand up for you and protect you. When the community says, no, sorry, you're on your own, good luck, then they live in fear. And so when Fresno Unified and when Fresno State said, our students are safe here, they chose their words carefully, they're saying, come. Study, be a member of our community, and we will be here for you. And that's the right message.
But getting back to the farm workers, so now is farming in jeopardy in the Central Valley, in your opinion?
I've been watching a variety of reporting on it, and from what I have seen, they're having trouble filling the positions to get the crops picked, and so food may rot on the plants.
What about in the healthcare industry? That's happening too?
So we have healthcare workers. We have home care workers. When we want our seniors shut-ins to be able to stay in the home, many of the workers who take care of that are undocumented because other people won't do that job for the wages we're willing to pay.
Okay, let me switch topics here just a little bit because City Councilman Steve Brandau was here a week ago, and he was talking about the homeless issue. You know about the resolution that he passed about arresting and detaining the homeless people if they're camping out overnight. Is that the right or wrong thing to do?
Well,
is that sending the wrong message?
Fining people who don't have money and throwing them in jail is not the right answer. One of the other issues that we really need to be understanding of is that many of the visible homeless are dealing with a wide variety of mental health disorders. And we do not have the systems in place to be able to properly treat them. Back in the 80s, California gutted that system under an administration that wanted to save money. And so people have been put on the streets instead of having treatment available. Now, when they said that we have all this available, we do not. So to criminalize something, saying that, we'll give you a voucher, you don't have to worry about it, we don't have enough placements to properly address the people who are on the street.
Another thing in the news here, high-profile Brooke Ashton, of course, the president of the school board here at Fresno Unified, insulting a lot of people with his own personal views about sex education, the LGBT community. He doesn't believe that I'm paraphrasing now, I'm not quoting Brooke Ashton, so paraphrasing that he doesn't think that teaching the sex education is the right thing to do because it may lead some of these students in the path and the direction of becoming LGBT. And so he insulted a lot. But a lot of people are saying, even across the country, they're calling for Brooke Ashton to resign. Now, is he being divisive by doing this? Should he be injecting his own personal views on the school board?
Well, educating people for safety does not and will not change their gender identity. That's ludicrous. So he needs to get some education on the science.
He needs to get education regarding what they're teaching?
His statement, well, a couple things. His statement that this could lead to people being swayed to a different gender identity is just, there is no scientific basis for that whatsoever. That is naive and incorrect. So someone working in education needs some serious education. The other issue is that his concept of abstinence-only education is also absolutely wrong. We know that when communities teach abstinence-only sex education, they have much higher rates of teen pregnancy and STDs. So there again, moral teaching from your church and from your home, absolutely, absolutely. But the mechanics of sex education is not getting done in our region enough in the homes.
Well, just look at the teen pregnancy.
Exactly. So you can, your home can say, it's really important to us that you wait until you're married. That's fine. But if you find yourself in the situation, which we prefer you don't do, here is what you need to know.
Correct. So it's, in other words, have all the facts in front of you before you make a decision.
And having all the facts in front of you will not override your moral education. It will not change you from straight to gay. And people who think that really are causing problems for our ability to support the vulnerable community. Again, the LGBT population experiences higher rates of suicide because we shun them. If we showed them love and support as they well deserve, then we would be able to vastly lower the rates of suicide.
And as you know, here in the Central Valley, there was an LGBT student who did commit suicide. But let's move on. I do want to talk about the religious diversity here in the Central Valley. There's a piece of videotape that I want to run right now. It's called Religion Diversity in Fresno. And I want you to look at this piece. It's got sound on it. And just look at the religious factions right here that we have to share and enjoy.
The history of religion can date as far back since the beginning of time, being one of the most influential aspects in the world. But what is it exactly about a specific religion that drives people into believing and following that faith? At Living World International Church, beliefs are extremely important to these common Christian believers, and with many major doctrines, it seems that what's most important is that Jesus is Son of God, Savior of the world.
Jesus is the one that saved us through the cross, through the blood. Romans 5:8 said, but God commended his love toward us.
For Muslims, they tend to have unique styles and traditions when it comes to their religion. Here at the Islamic Cultural Center, followers can perform their specific rituals and attend the mosque. Reza Nekumenish says that every Muslim must perform 5 salats, or prayers, which is said to be part of the Muslim custom.
The Muslim ritual prayer is very specific. It follows for a certain formula. We recite certain things. We go through certain actions.
Pure line, correct?
When it comes to the Jewish culture, it is said to be one that is rich and diverse, being universally recognized for its work toward the betterment of humankind. This practice is led by a rabbi, an appointed Jewish leader who teaches the Jewish law. At Bet Shalom, located right in the middle of central Fresno, Rabbi Amnon took on the position as rabbi and teaches the congregation the practices that must be followed.
We celebrate the biblical holidays. They're not necessarily Jewish. Many call them Jewish holidays, but they're biblical holidays.
As you can see, religion comes with its own set of beliefs, systems, and even practices. One thing these religious groups have in common is their belief in being okay to be curious about the other. They all welcome any person with open arms. Tia Vance, Fresno State Focus.
All right, and so a slight correction there, Rabbi. Go ahead. A little mistake there in the piece, but tell us what that was.
It's a mistake of ignorance. Education is important. So what was shown as Judaism in there was not Judaism.
And it was
that they call themselves Messianic Jewish, but it's fundamentalist Christianity.
I understand.
When someone considers Jesus to be their Messiah, that's Christian because the term Christ means Messiah. And that leaves Judaism. So the Jewish world would not consider that Jewish in any way, and then much of the Christian world does not consider that Jewish.
Or in the
either.
old country, as they say, because I've been there, to Israel, they call them Jews for Jesus. In other words.
No, actually, it's two different groups.
No, I know, but that's like a generic name or a term for the umbrella of everyone that falls under that category.
Not
there might be,
really.
Okay. All right.
Jews for Jesus is a very particular group that was created by an evangelical church, the Missouri Synod of the Lutheran Church, for the purpose of converting Jews. Messianic Judaism is a separate movement. It has the same underlying theology.
Same goals?
I don't know that I would say that they're nuanced goals. So they're not exactly the same. Their concept is that you can be Jewish and Christian at the same time. Most Jews certainly do not believe that, and most Christians I know do not accept that either.
Okay. Jews being targeted here in the Central Valley, are they?
Well, when you say targeted, what do you mean by that?
They're targeted around the country. They were targeted, obviously, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Is some of that going on here in the Valley?
We have concerns because we know there is a lot of affiliation with racist white supremacist groups in the region. It's been relatively calm here, but we are always vigilant and working for the safety of our community. So we don't want to be lulled into a false sense of security. But I know certainly our students in schools will hear anti-Semitic statements. Other friends of mine in the community have heard it. I've heard it a bit.
We got a couple of minutes left. Where does your organization go from here? Because there are, in a recent report, the Southern Poverty Law Center identified 79 hate groups in the state of California, 2 of which are here in the Central Valley. The 2 that I want to mention are American Vanguard, if you've never heard of them, and Holy Nation of Odin. They are low-profile groups. But as faith in the Valley, where do you go to try to combat racism and those that are being discriminated against? What can you do in the future as a final comment?
Our focus is on lifting up the vulnerable, and when we have opportunities for the vulnerable in the community to be represented, to stand up, to have their voice, to stand and be proud, then the community around shows the value of these people who don't always get the proper recognition. Yet we have such a beautiful tapestry of diversity here in the Central Valley, and a lot of the work we do in Faith in the Valley brings that diversity together. We love each other. We really have a wonderful time together. Many of the people we've seen in your clips are good friends of mine, not only from the work we do, but we just really enjoy being together. And so when you see how much the interfaith and broad spectrum of ethnic background community enjoys working together, then I would hope that that would spill forth into the community around us.
Yeah, we got a minute left. Despite what happened 4 months ago with Corey Ali Muhammad when he shot the 3 people, for the most part, I'm not downplaying that incident. It's a major incident. Then they say it was a race attack. unfortunately, we don't see that here in the Central Valley like many other parts of the country, and let's hope it stays that way because, like you say, we are diverse here. We do love each other here. For the most part, we try to get along.
Absolutely. We have a strong partnership here with our Islamic community, with many of the different communities of color. Right. We work together and we love doing it.
Absolutely. And we thank you for your time, and come back again on the program, and good luck with Faith in the Valley. Much success, and we'd like to hear from you again, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Rabbi Rick Weiner, the president of the Faith in Valley, covers all 5 counties, of course, and he is also with Temple Beth Israel. That's going to do it for us today here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. See you next time. Have a good day. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to